Hey everyone, it's Norm Farrar, aka the Beard Guy here, and welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the Amazon FBA and e-commerce podcast.
Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm.
All right, on today's show, we're going to be talking about growing your Amazon FBA business in 2021. Our guest is co-founder of AMZ Insiders. He helps sellers get to 6 and 7 figures on Amazon. He's also the award winner of multiple the 2 Club award winner. And he is an Amazon selling expert. I've known Jamie Davidson for years. He's an awesome guy and can't wait to talk to him. But before we get to that, I just want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Global Wired Advisors, a leading digital investment bank focused on optimizing the business sales process. For more information, contact Chris and his team over at globalwiredadvisors.com. All right, Mr. Kelsey Boychild, where are you?
Hello, happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Did you behave yourself on the weekend?
I definitely did. I went biking for the first time in Toronto too, so my legs are killing me and I'm happy to be sitting for the next couple hours and I'm not looking forward to standing back up. But welcome everyone to the show. Welcome Simon, AMZ Elites. Good to see everyone. Andrew. Really great to see all of our Beard Nation members joining us. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions throughout the show, please just throw them over into the comment sections or just let us know what you did this weekend. We'd love to know. I'll be in the comment section too, hanging out with you guys. But before we get to the show, if you could just please smash those like buttons, share this out to any friends, family that is interested in selling on Amazon or e-commerce. We also have a really great prize today that'll be coming up as well. And if you're looking for full highlights of the show, if you're new to the show and you don't know where to look, just head on over to our YouTube channel. That's probably the easiest. Just search Norman Farrar or Lunch with Norm and our videos will come up. We have about 100, almost 180 episodes coming up. So lots of content for you guys to dive into. But I think that's about it.
Okay, and I see AMZ Elite is from, formerly Lifestyle Concept. Okay, now we know who you are. Okay. All right, so if you have any questions, make sure you shoot them over into the comment section. So at this time, sit back, relax, grab that cup of coffee, and enjoy the episode. Welcome, Mr. Jamie.
Hey, Norm. Hey, great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Hey, for those of us who may not know you, can you just give us a little bit of background, who you are and what you do?
Sure, yeah. Jamie Davidson, co-founder of AMZ Insiders. You shared before, we do a lot of coaching, consulting, helping people build their Amazon business over the last, it's about the 5th year we've been doing that. So that's a lot of fun. We're pretty well known for having a large Amazon operation. We've got 200 plus employees on our team. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia, and down the road, I've got a 25,000 square foot warehouse. We're huge in the cell phone accessory space and about 6 other brands, but that was what really built us large. And I've got a team of a little over 200 people over in Shenzhen, China, that we leverage a lot of our teams, similar to the way that a lot of people leverage teams in the Philippines. But my co-founder is a native from China, but located here as well too. So yeah, we've got a lot of experience in the space, and always great to connect with people like yourself.
Now that's interesting that you have your offices over in China. With everything that's happened this year, has that affected you?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, the last year plus, right? Last year and a half has been interesting in that. Like a lot of people with COVID in the business, at first you really didn't know what was going to happen with the business, which direction. And, on the top line, things have been really good, really strong. But the more of the challenges came definitely on the logistics side, the inventory management, some of the expense side, upward pressure on the cost of goods. So definitely some challenges, but, we started this brand back in 2011. 2012 that the reality is every single year it's been a different challenge. So, we just view it as the next problem to solve.
Right.
It's definitely been different, the past year than what the challenges were the couple years before that.
That's a really great point. That every year there's something different, and it's just getting over that hurdle. And for us that stay in the game, that's just less competition for those who bail. So, okay. So why don't we talk a little bit about your journey? From, you said about 5 years ago, but let's go back to your Amazon journey, getting onto Amazon. How did you get there? I think you've got an interesting story. So why don't we talk about it?
Yeah, sure, Norm. So, I always like to say, no one went to school to learn e-commerce, right? No one went to school or college to become an Amazon seller. So I think every story is unique. Maybe, over time that will change maybe, but, so, my background is more of I guess you'd call it a traditional corporate background. I was an Army officer early in my career, after graduating from West Point, did my master's degree, and I was kind of climbing the corporate ladder. Did pretty well. I did do well in the corporate environment, but it brought me to Atlanta. I'm originally from New York. I was in banking in the Delaware area, Pennsylvania. I moved down basically to Atlanta as part of a private equity deal. I was basically a hired gun. I call it a hired gun for some private equity companies to run as an operator. I've always been an operator to run these companies. So I was a chief operating officer, and for one deal, I was a CEO for another deal. But for those that aren't familiar with that model, it's a little bit like the aggregators now, what you're seeing with the big investments into Amazon businesses, but it's essentially investment groups going in and buying these companies. We're taking a majority stake, and they either leave the primary founder in place and bring me and other guys in as kind of the executive team with them, or in some cases, they may replace that person and put them on the board and have you run the company. But that was what that's where I was in my career. And it happened to be my next door neighbor at the time. And my neighbor in Atlanta, just a neighborhood about 20 minutes from here. He was literally my next door neighbor, and we became kind of buddies. At first I saw him selling these cell phone accessories out of his garage. And it was like, is he doing eBay? I really didn't understand what the heck that was, but we became buddies, and just I'd spend time over at his house. We do just go over there for some beers, some drinks, and the more I understood it, the more I could realize this was a real opportunity. At the time, he would kind of joke or he'd always say, "Oh, you're such a big deal," because of my corporate role. And he was an IT consultant at the time, but he always say, "Oh, you're a big deal," and I'd always be like, "Shut up, man. And let me understand what you do." So we just had different strengths. He was really technical. He was really good at coding and setting up systems. And I had an analytical mindset, but I wasn't that extent, but I was more in terms of building teams and hiring people and understanding, leadership and that type of things. But he had that angle on the Amazon side with China. My first impression, because when he first was involved with it and he was talking to me about getting involved, at first I didn't quite get it, right? I didn't really understand how people could sell on Amazon. I thought that was Amazon, that sold all the products. I didn't understand that you could be a third-party seller. But the second thing, I always look for angles why someone else can be successful at something and maybe you cannot, or what's the competitive advantage? And so my mind at the time, I thought that, oh, well, he's native Chinese, he speaks Mandarin. I'd hear him on the back porch late at night, talking with suppliers or the team. So I just thought, initially I thought, oh, I can't do this because I'm not Chinese. I don't have that understanding on the sourcing side. So that was, of course, a long time ago. And the long story short is just, initially, like anything, I didn't feel comfortable to even ask him intelligent questions to understand about it. I could understand strategically, but in terms of getting my hands wet or my hands dirty, I just opened an Amazon account and just started putting stuff up there to see, just so I could make dumb mistakes, so I could then ask him more intelligent questions and understand it and come to the table, with a more, at least a baseline understanding of what we were doing. So anyways, that's how I got, it took a little while, basically a year or two later, made an investment to get involved more because the business took off pretty quick. Like it got to 10 million, 20 million, $40 million within the first 4 years. And there were some plateaus along the way, which we could talk about. But then, when we built the team in China was where we broke the $100 million mark. So,
Jamie,
anyway, that's a little bit of the backstory.
I'm curious, if you were to take that same product line and you were to do it last year, do you think you would get to 100 million in the same time period?
No, I would say it's definitely different now. I mean, there's some unique opportunities that are more exciting, but in terms of the path we took, definitely would have to be a lot different.
Right.
At the time, it was definitely the wild west. It's funny because, in 2015, nowadays people are oh, that's a long time ago. In 2015, it was it's everyone always feels like they missed the boat. 2015, 2016, they're oh, back in the day. But back initially, those first few years, first of all, there's so much black hat going on, stuff that's going on now. It wasn't even really considered black hat. It was just the way of doing the business. It's way back when with Google, if you were doing stuff, how you got ranked in SEO, you were the entrepreneurs are so far ahead of the system or what Amazon could think. It took them years ahead. So in order to compete, and we've told Amazon this in person, if we followed quote unquote all their rules back then, we wouldn't have a business, for one thing. Two is, now it would take a lot more capital. It doesn't take, you don't need a ton of capital now in terms of finding niches, but the niche and the product we are in is one of the most competitive out there. I mean, really cell phone accessories and supplements, because the stakes are high, right? The amount of money that's involved. So it would definitely be more different or difficult now. And even we've seen that as we've launched brands, we don't sell supplements. We find other niches that we think, our systems and processes work well. But yeah, it would definitely take a lot more capital, I think, to go after some of those big markets, which is doable. It's just a different business strategy. Excuse me.
Oh, I wish we could go back to those days. It was so easy to launch a product. Okay, so before we go to the next question, we've got a giveaway today. So get this. A consultation with Jamie. Yep, whoever wins, you're getting consulted by $100 million Amazon seller. Not too bad, not too shabby. I think he knows a little bit about his stuff. Anyways, that's what we're going to be doing. It's going to be hashtag Wheel of Kelsey. If you want another entry, just tag two people either in the group or outside the group. Kelsey, is there anything else?
Yes. So we also have our Monday giveaway with Marsha Reese and Stay Well Copper too. So that is hashtag I want to stay well, and you'll receive one of these copper plates that help keep you germ-free during these months. And for more information, just visit staywellcopper.com. And yeah, so the hashtag is I want to stay well, and that's available for US and Canada only.
And I want to talk about that for a second. So, a big shout out, congratulations to Marsha for sticking with it. Jamie, we talked about hurdles just a second ago. So Marsha, she's had over $1 billion worth of sales. She's a very successful entrepreneur. She brought this product onto Amazon, started selling incredibly well, and then all of a sudden the PPE issue came up. Now she has a natural product that's copper that you can either wear on your body or put on the back of your phone. It's an antibacterial, product. She got shut down from, I don't want to say the numbers, but it was 6 figures a month, and she was just getting started, and then she got shut down. She was resilient. She could have given up, and she didn't. And I think it was last month, with the help of Nir Rava, they got relisted, and now they're selling again. So just a quick shout out. And she didn't stop there, by the way. She looked at different outlets. So she looked at going out to Shopify. She looked to going on to Walmart. So it wasn't like, oh, I didn't get onto Amazon. Well, she didn't stop. She just kept going. And I think that's the type of person you've got to be in 2021, is to be resilient. At least that's probably my biggest, if you're going to be an entrepreneur on Amazon, resilience for me is number one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's interesting. I've seen it first from ourselves when we were building the business, but especially over the last 4 or 5 years of seeing so many different people, both people that we've worked with or just other people that it's like yourself and friends in the industry. And so I think I've seen some commonality within those that have been successful and those that have not been, and not just within Amazon, but I think as you kind of referred to, it's really a common thread around entrepreneurship is that, there is a lot of fear, and it's understanding in the space when you're really fear about yourself, whether you're gonna be successful and every day. And one week is going great. The next, week is not. And so I think a lot of people naturally are kind of looking for, it's this mindset game of almost looking for a way out, right? So there's always like the next thing that you go, oh, well, that worked before, but now this happens, right? So it's not going to work. Or if you're in the, Facebook ads versus the iPhone, oh, well, now they changed the terms. And so now you can't track people with your pixel as well. Oh, now so there's always those things. And on Amazon, oh, they're cracking down on this, or they cracked down on that, or you had inventory limits a year ago, or my product. So there's so many of those things, and people do get frustrated with them, but a lot of it is people not willing, kind of having a level of discipline to stay with it. And I think part of that is the challenge of not having some I call it discipline, or some processes or routines in place to make sure that you're plugging along in your business, as opposed to kind of just getting blown over when the next big storm comes through, or the wind. So, without a doubt, because the reality is, we talk about the aggregators is a different topic, but there is more excitement going on. There's more capital in the business right now than there's ever been. There's your Amazon brand's never been more valuable, right? If you can build it the right way. It's your assets, like, the value of your house, like they all just doubled, right? More or less in the last year or two, if it's done the right way. And so, there's a ton of positives, a lot of excitement there. And the game just continues to change. So you got to know just, what to focus on, what are the new opportunities. Absolutely agree with that point.
You're talking about processes to put into place. What are some processes that sellers can put into place to help you, to help them get to the next level?
Yeah, sure. So it's interesting. I was at an event in Jersey. There was the Amazon powwow, a strong Hasidic Jew community up there. And they asked me to they want to talk about, getting to 8 and 9 figures, a lot of successful sellers there. And it's interesting as you get to those bigger numbers, the things you talk about, or if you were really to dig in with the aggregators and how they're operating, because there's actually a lot of similarities with the aggregators, these big investment groups or backed groups are bringing, is almost all of them, or any of them that will end up being successful, are really good on the process and strategy side. Whereas the typical entrepreneur, consumer, or someone listening gets super excited by the next hack, right? Or the excitement of kind of the shiny new object. And those help. You can plug in those tactics along the way. But those that are really successful in building and scaling the business next level, it's not as sexy, as exciting as, as some people think, but it is really based in routine and discipline and processes. So, I think 2 big areas, which is initially you probably don't have a lot of team members, so it can be very operationally focused. So you have kind of operational processes. And then as you grow, and most people do get to this point, if you're sticking with it, you do need to have equal processes around how you're going to hire your team, how you're going to manage your team. A lot of people just kind of wing it in terms of how they go about it. But, I was at another event down in Orlando speaking, and a friend of mine, Ashley Thompson, was speaking as well too. And Ashley's a 9-figure, they're 9-figure sellers. And he was talking about their process for his whole talk. He decided to do on how they hire people. And it was very similar to us. It was a lot more disciplined and process around how we interview people, how we follow up with reference checks than, the typical seller probably would ever imagine. But, from a process standpoint, one thing is you got to have, daily, weekly, monthly routines, right? So we have, we have dashboards in place. We have weekly meetings in place. I have like a Tuesday and Thursday check-in with key members of the team. So, some of those things I talk about if you were in a corporate environment for a job that maybe you disliked and you thought entrepreneurship would be a lot more fun because you're not tied to certain things. You got to be sure you're careful that your business doesn't lack those things around there. So, for example, like on a given day, what is it that either yourself or your team, certain team members, you want them focused on? So we have scorecards for every single person in our company, specifically, not just a job description, but what are the targets? Where are they trying to get to get there? At its simplest, most of, I would say, kind of a smaller seller, everything else in a given day, think about, what tasks are you doing that are actually moving the needle? Specifically, if I was going to pick a couple, I would say, what are you doing to, what are you doing to drive reviews on your listings, right? And what are you doing to improve the efficiency of your PPC? And what are you doing to improve and drive your organic keyword rank? For example, those would be three broadly if I was building this business by myself. So, in our case, one of our advantages, the reason why we were able to scale back then, which I credit my partner Jason with, which the aggregators can have this ability to now. And again, there's a lot more tools, so everyone has more ability now but the ability to understand how to leverage systems and software and tools. So we used NetSuite, to really kind of customize and build out our global logistics chain and our global. When I say global, because we have a team in China, we have a team here, we have a small team in the UK. But to be able to have data and understand where we're at and manage our inventory and not be out of stock, and have processes for listings and optimizing listings, all of that stuff is connected. We're not just winging that. And that's what, if you're going to pull back what it looks like at most of these big operations that you see that are, I'd say certainly you get past 8 figures, we get to 20 million and above, you're going to see more and more of that. Otherwise, you just can't grow and scale unless you have those processes in place.
I'm interested, you've got all these processes. Do you assign somebody to review the process? Because like title optimization or listing optimization can go out of date very quickly. How do you go about that so you're doing it correctly and you're not doing old school methods that don't work?
Yeah, now that is a good question, because there is a little bit of it's a little bit of a gray area in understanding where things really are with the market. Sometimes we're like a little slow to change things, and we're a little bit behind. So a lot of that's trying to stay plugged in. That's actually one of the reasons for us, like doing the coaching consulting the last 4 or 5 years, is we enjoy that, but it's also really plugged us in more to other people in the industry of what's going on, to go out there. Because we, with a bigger operation where it's like a little bit of bigger ship, to turn it take a little bit. There's also more risk. So we want to be careful nowadays in terms of that we don't implement something across our infrastructure that's going to create risk or, get us in trouble with Amazon terms of service. So, but along those lines, we do have, I will, have insights of things, and we will float it out there in terms of these are techniques. We'll test things at a small level too, but for as far as a process, like I'll give you an example, like because we have a team in China that we have a lot of people in China that manage our listings and our things, though, but they're not native English speakers. So anything that they do, or my team here in Atlanta will review it before we go live with it, because sometimes the language and the nuances of it are a little bit off. And so, there's a process that goes from here to here. But yeah, in terms of periodically, it's hard to say. It depends on what the thing is. Some things don't change that much over years, but certain things around, strategies for keyword rank, or like you said, listing optimization, or could just be new opportunities, things like Amazon Live or leveraging. I know you do some really cool things in terms of PR or media. Some of those things are just different things that we haven't done. And so we'll mix those in as kind of tests. And once we feel good with it, then we'll build it into our processes.
Okay. So let's talk about the successes, or what sellers can do very quickly, and what are they doing wrong?
Yeah. So I would say, a couple of things to make sure you get right and that you understand fundamentally, or at least what I believe, and is this understanding of making sure your brand focused. So I like to work backwards, start with kind of the end in mind. And I do like the model, even though we're a bigger business and haven't been in the business of selling our brands. I like the model of those that are, basically building to sell. So like my good friend David and Leah Cups, they've sold 5 of these businesses in the last 2 years. And so kind of working back, and each time they sold one, they understood a little bit better what they could do to run the business so they could get a bigger valuation for it. But one thing is, hey, Amazon loves brands, right? They love private label brands for a lot of reasons, including that it's less risk to them. They can, if it's been vetted, if it has a trademark, if you're in their brand registry, they know there's less odds for counterfeit issues. And it's legitimizes on the brand. So they reward you with that. So obviously be heavily brand focused, try to get into that brand registry as quickly as possible. I know they have the IP Accelerator program, a tool. So that's kind of step one, is just have this mindset of building the brand. For those that are already up there, you've got your products. If you've got a good product, that's kind of course, the big thing always is if you've got a great product, everything else on Amazon is so much easier, right? So there's a woman who started working with us in March, and in June, I was in a clubhouse room, and she was talking like, oh yeah, I know her. And I didn't know at the time, but she told me she did over 200,000 in sales through the middle of June so far in the month. And I was like, what? All right, let's jump on a call. Let me understand what's going on. Cause that is not typical, right? Someone's been selling for 4 months and you've done a couple. Now her product was seasonal, a bit seasonal. And the Father's Day but as I understood her product, I'm like, wow, that's really interesting product. And she's working her tail off. She's really a go-getter, but she has that product piece, right? So it makes everything else so much easier. So now she's really working on how to stay in stock and the inventory. So obviously if you get that product right, that's critical. Probably the biggest thing I would say for any seller, whether you're newer or older, is just, the keyword research side is just really understanding, how much Amazon is a search engine game in large part. And so many people I still see, they don't really understand. They haven't really put the time in to really do the amount of keyword research that you need on the front end. The listing optimization, how do you drive traffic using keywords and the game around that? It's something that the techniques have changed a little bit. The tools now are better than they've ever been, but so many people, I guess, you have a real physical product, but at the end of the day, that ability to be optimized for so many different keywords and how you do that is so critical. And so I think what changes is how you drive traffic. The techniques available now are more dynamic than they used to be. There's lots of different techniques you can do, and we can talk through some of those as well. But, to me, those are some of the biggest things to be successful on the business. I talked about earlier about making sure you have systems, processes, that kind of stuff in place. At the end of the day, if you want an aggregator that's one way to see, they're interested in successful businesses for the most part. They're not looking to buy turnarounds or things. They're trying to mitigate their risk. They basically would tell you, not all of them, but a general guide, because they're figuring this stuff out themselves with all this money to invest. But generally they would say, hey, we want brands or an ASIN that has, is a top 3 under primary keywords, top 3 rank. It has enough reviews that there's some moat around that brand. So there's some level of protection that those sales are going to continue in the future. They're going to want margins of typically 25% or greater on average. And from a business size, they're probably going to be attracted. Of course, the bigger, the better. They're probably going to say they'd like a business, 2 million and up, whatever. So anyways, those are kind of guidelines to work backwards from and how you run your business to get to those metrics. And they want businesses that that haven't plateaued and going down. They want to see that there's runway, right? So, again, these fundamentals we're talking about, these are the exact same fundamentals before I ever did Amazon. This was the same stuff when I was in the private equity space. were running a company for 4 or 5 years. Now the time can be shorter. You can run your Amazon business for, whatever, 2 years. But, you want to have a trajectory so that there's this runway for the next person to acquire your business and you get a nice payout for it. So, but yeah, those are some of the things I'd focus on in terms of keyword research, but also, trying to understand the right tools in terms of driving outside traffic.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So driving outside traffic. Amazon is rewarding us now for driving outside traffic. So they've got that new referral program, which is great. In case you guys don't know what that is, it's Amazon's brand referral program where they'll pay you on average up to 10%, not up to 10%, average of 10%. And if you drive traffic from Google or wherever, they're going to take that off your referral fees. So you'll get a discount. Instead of paying, let's say 15%, you'll be paying 5%. So it's a bit of a bonus. But let's talk about external traffic. How are some ways that you're driving traffic or other ways that you've heard of that sellers can take advantage?
Yeah, so that's good. And this new program, that's a good example of, hey, things are always changing and you want to make sure you're dialed into the pulse of things as they're going on, because that's an interesting approach. And you want to also kind of think, sometimes you want to put yourself in what Amazon's trying to accomplish as well too. Because some people initially always think, oh, Amazon's, hates sellers, they're working against us and everything else. And the reality is Amazon's trying to think about, how they grow their business. And it's why when you talk to an Amazon rep about your business in international, like your best buddy in the world, they're like, oh, we can do this for you. We can do that for you. Why? It's because they're trying to grow their brands and they're looking for you. You probably feel more like a partner in that scenario. Mm-hmm. Same thing with these other programs that they come out is I like to just try to think that way so I can try to understand what does Amazon want that fits, that aligns with what we're trying to do. So Amazon, in terms of whether it's outside traffic or whether it's social engagement or social aspects, they don't want to be kind of this outdated platform that's just static. Meanwhile, the world's changing quickly, right? The world of TikTok and Instagram Reels and Instagram and whether YouTube, Google, so forth. So they have to constantly keep up, on how the experience is going to work on their platform versus other, other platforms out there. So, couple to that point, a couple of the ones, you say it's not necessarily outside, but it's outside tools is certainly, you think about things like Amazon Live, leveraging that more. So I consider these kind of social aspects that are within the platform. Certainly Amazon Live and Amazon Posts, which is kind of, I consider like their poor man's version of Instagram. But anytime they're incentivizing traffic for something, I consider that an opportunity that you want to take advantage of while that window's open. And so those are two big ones. There's lots of ways in terms of like Amazon Live. It's, even though it's within the Amazon platform, I think of it as a bit of an outside traffic because you can leverage experts, you can leverage influencers just like you do on Instagram. You can basically give them just access to that part of your account so that they can plug in and go live on your platform. So there's, basically resources and experts out there that will, for your niche, obviously want relevant that have some audiences that can then promote it on their bigger platforms to help drive traffic to Amazon. We've done a lot the last couple of years. Again, one of the things we built when we started understanding, how to do this digital marketing and, it's like the funnel hacking stuff, all that stuff is, we understood the power of influencer marketing a lot more. We never did that until about, I guess now it's been about 3 years. But so we have our team here in Atlanta is really heavily focused. Our marketing team, the only marketing we do here in the US is really our influencer marketing or things we think we need here. So we do use YouTube influencers a lot. We have, in our case, for example, so for cell phone cases, we will identify YouTube influencers for unboxing videos, or they might do like drop tests, any type of things like that. And we will send them, we have in our offices down there, we have all these things that are just designed for influencers, product that we send out to them to get out there in the market to help our branding. So we've done some paid traffic with unboxing videos as well too via YouTube. and some Google ads as well too. But those are kind of really the focus we had. We haven't done the new not the influencer program, but I guess it's I don't know what the new name was, called ambassador, but what you just referred to, that's like the new thing that we're looking into more in terms of how we can leverage that. So you probably have more insight than us right now around how we're going to do it, but we're plugged into that stuff so we can quickly evaluate and see if we want to include that in our products as well too. So there are some other strategies out there too. Like one of my team members here, AMZ Insiders, you leverages like Reddit ads as well too. So there's some other kind of niche platforms. I would just say any of these platforms, just make sure you're careful. Like, don't make sure you really understand the strategy before you go do it. Cause you don't want to waste money quickly on these platforms and we've made that mistake in the past as well.
Right. Have you ever thought of using YouTube pre-rolls?
Yeah, so that's something I definitely know people have done. We have not tested that before, but I know that's been an effective strategy that people have gotten some real low costs. I mean, the cost per click has worked pretty well, especially because a lot of my YouTube experience on the digital side was kind of the opposite. It was pretty expensive on the front end, but you'd always get like a quality type lead. But what's your experience on that side?
Great. So, yeah. And especially if you're working with a YouTube, I don't know, consultant, let's say it's a consultant, but somebody that knows how to put together the video to get the majority of the people off who aren't interested. If you're not interested in my product, get off, click at the 24-second mark, just to make sure that you've got a captivated audience. And then the clicks are very inexpensive. So it is a great way to do some advertising. And so many people are just not using it. We've talked about YouTube pre-roll for years. And this is something that, I would highly recommend people use because it's such a cheap form of advertising. And I mean, just where you can target and what you can do with it. And YouTube in general, like you mentioned the YouTube influencers. You've got to be careful because you can just get, they can, I don't want to, how do I say it politely? They could pull the wool over your eyes very quickly and charge you an arm and a leg. But like we had, I don't know if you know Joe Martin, but he was on, he's the founder of BoxyCharm. He 100% only did influencers. And he grew his company to $500 million when he sold it to Etsy. So, and that's strictly by influencer marketing. A pretty cool concept.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting being smart with these platforms, understanding, it's interesting. Like I have a friend of mine who's not as big, but has done pretty well on Etsy. She doesn't sell on Amazon, but she does really well. Her TikTok ads are doing really well. So I'm like, all right, let me understand when you say TikTok ads, let me understand the steps. You're taking from here to a landing page, pixeling them there, and then retargeting them. So sometimes there's like a couple steps. So any of these platforms, I just try to understand enough. Like you said, with influencers, for us, it's a little bit more of you try to build some level of trust because there can be a lot of manipulation, with social platforms in terms of, like let's say you take Instagram or YouTube's in terms of certainly people can buy views and buy certain aspects. So you want to try to weed out the best you can and make sure you're getting people that are actually, like you said, your target audience that's going to actually move the needle.
New sellers, there's a lot of people that are listening to this podcast that are brand spanking new. They might not even have their product yet. They might be taking a course, which I hope they're doing if they're going to get into Amazon, understand the platform. Capitalization. So being able to properly afford the product in the marketing. What are you looking at? Like once you get your inventory, how much capital do you need roughly to survive?
Yeah. So it's a great question. It's over time, and it's interesting. I'll think of it in terms of, I think of like just my friends, right? Or Norm, your own friends, and I have people, reach out, of course, just like you do, reaching out going, hey, can I meet you for lunch? I want to think about talking about getting into this Amazon business. So you get a lot of those type things. And as I think about that generally, and there's, some of my friends are pretty successful, so they have a lot of capital, or I know a lot of people don't have a lot of capital, right? And so even if you have a lot of capital, so we don't want to spend more than you need to. Probably the number that I think I would believe really would say about $10,000 would be an amount that I think would be okay. Not great. I'd rather have more, 20,000, 50,000. Again, we put in $100,000 each to give you perspective, right? So we didn't just, granted, we had some success. We knew we invested back into it, but I would say $10,000. If you're below that, sure, you could start a business. Of course, you can do it with a couple thousand or buy some real low cost product. But the reality is, there's no doubt between reordering inventory. I mean, your first couple cycles of selling your product, typically through ranking the product, you're typically not going to have a lot of profit back, or you're going to maybe get some funds back. Whatever funds you do get back, you're going to need to plow back into your next order, right? So there's a period that you need to make sure that your margins are sufficient, right? That's part of the reason why you want to make sure the math works, the unit economic works, because if not, you're going to have no room for error as well too. So yeah, I would put the number at that amount. I know people that have gone into it with less, and sometimes it depends how you're defining. They have access to debt. Do they have access to credit cards, whatever else? But the reality is, of course, I'm not a huge fan of if you don't have any capital, or if you can't afford to invest it or lose it, you're probably not in the right spot. And you want to be in a spot where you're not desperate, right? Because otherwise, it's like in Vegas, they say it's like gambling with scared money. That if it's like, I need this to work or else I'm totally screwed on this one product, you just don't have any room for those mistakes at that point.
All right. Before we get into the questions, I got one last question about cost of goods. So the whole environment, the whole atmosphere on Amazon has changed. What type of multiple do you need? Would you recommend? And this is more of a how long is a piece of string question, but you've got a product at $10. What should it be selling for on Amazon?
Yeah. So I think as the value goes up, the multiple as the cost of the product goes up, because the multiple, you could say you could decrease that multiple a little bit, but at those lower price products, my mind, first thing I'm looking at is about 5 times the cost of that product. So if it's costing me $3, to get the product, I want to be selling it for at least 15 especially at the lower, if you're talking about a product you're acquiring for $1, $2, $3, $4, kind of those lower cost products, meaning you're selling them for, $12, $15, up to $18. The margins are tighter because the Amazon, the cost of Amazon fulfilling the order, or anyone fulfilling the order is somewhat fixed, right? Based on the size and the product. The sales commission fee is variable based on the sales price, but you're going to have less room. You're going to have smaller margins there. So, typically we're going to want margins before, besides the multiple, we're going to want margins of 40% or greater before PPC or before external traffic or YouTube pre-roll ads, whatever else. We're going to want that cushion of ideally around 40%, because we may spend 10%, 15%, or even 20% on marketing, and that's going to leave us with a 20% margin. So that's really what you want to work. You got to make sure that you have enough of that buffer. So when you add in, your cost of not only just buying the product, but shipping the product to the U.S. right now is more expensive than ever. So you need to have enough of a buffer right there. And you got to make sure, your pricing itself. I mean, there is some upward pressure on price. I'd say some inflation. I think, because of these costs that people, you may need to look at, raising your price in terms of what you can sell it for as well.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I'm right with you. It's a sliding scale. If you've got a product selling for $150, it doesn't have to be as great, but you got to take advantage of those dollars. It might look like it's selling. You're pushing volume, but you're earning pennies, and you're not going to survive on pennies. Okay, so I think it's time to get into some of these questions.
Cool.
Okay, great. Also, if you are interested in today's giveaway, that is hashtag
I forgot that.
Kelsey. Hashtag Wheel of Kelsey to win a consult with Jamie. So that's just comment over in the comment section, hashtag Wheel Kelsey, and you'll be entered. Also, we have another giveaway, hashtag I want to stay well, and that is a giveaway from Stay Well Copper to win a copper phone plate, and that is for US and Canada addresses only. But yes, let's jump into the questions. First one is from Andrew. Norm, where do you funnel your audience with YouTube pre-rolls, i.e. Amazon website, sales funnels, etc.?
It depends. You can drive it right over to your Amazon page, or you can have a landing page that will, and this is kind of important too. Like, you don't want just tire kickers, right? So you can drive people over to a landing page, over to a funnel, and then kick them over to your Amazon page. And that way, the people that are landing on your page are more likely to convert. So that's probably the best thing. However, that being said, you might want to drive people over to your website. Your website might be it might be a Shopify site. It might offer different product that's on Amazon. It just all depends on the funnel, because you can do some really cool things. You could drive people over to the site. You can give them a product, like a free product that you don't offer on Amazon, to get their email. And then when they go to the to exit, you can give them a coupon to go over to your Amazon site to buy product for 10% off or 15% off. So not only do you get their email, you can get their you can get a sale on Amazon. There's lots of different ways to do it. It's just how creative do you want to be? You can drive like from social media. This was specifically, Kelsey, was this? I can't even read that. Was it specifically about YouTube? Yeah. Yep. So again, with YouTube, you can drive it pretty much anywhere you want. For the most part, we're driving it over to Amazon, but there's no reason why you can't put it over to a landing page and then over to Amazon. Whatever you'd like.
Okay, great. From Mohammed, if I have only one product and I want to bring external traffic to it using attribution links, should I bring traffic to my store or to my product detail page?
What do you think about that, Jamie?
Yeah. So if, it's interesting. Often we're probably going to go more to the product detail page. Obviously the My Store is kind of the extra step there too, in terms of the click. But again, we've certainly played around with the 2-click URLs or 2-step, I should say, versus 1-step. But most typically we're going to drive it directly to our product.
Yeah, and that's because of the double click for the most part. You're going to drop traffic. Anybody who's in e-commerce, every time you have that extra click, you're going to drop off. Okay.
From Sarah, Jamie, how has $20,000 shipping costs affected your business?
Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely impacts the margins. As we were talking about it a moment before too, we've definitely looked recently at, we've increased our prices at some point in terms of what we're selling products for. And obviously this depends on your category, what you're at. But for example, I mean, you will see some of your competition raising prices, and that helps you a little bit if you see the ability to do that. So we've done a little bit more fulfilled by merchant, and also we actually opened a second warehouse here. We're in the process of opening down the road. I know a lot of people don't run their own warehouses, but in terms of third party, 3PLs is, there's been more demand for that to leverage that. There's no doubt the cost is higher, but everyone's dealing with that. So you have to, just be smart in terms of, there's some downward pressure on our margins for that, meaning a little bit less profit. So we have to look for more opportunities to potentially raise prices, and also just to find better opportunities to sell, more volume of our product. That will fluctuate over time. That may work itself out and come back down. So, we've had years where at a bigger scale, our margins are, with a big team and everything else, our margins are a little bit lower in terms of our total margins. But, we've had years where we're at, 15% margins. We might have a year where we're at 7%. As a company, I mean, we're still profitable, and it's a large dollar amount still, but then we may have a year where we're 25 or 30% bounce back the next year because, our costs go back down. So So yeah, definitely something you got to be just really on top of and understand how to leverage potentially, not that a 3PL or someone else doesn't change the cost. The costs are what they are. But, we try to do as much as we can to have products in country here so that, we're not dealing with the longer lead times and the shipping times. And, we just handle that a little bit more on the US side than we typically would.
And for those that are let's just say you're selling bully sticks, or no, not bully sticks. Let's say you're selling some beauty product that you're getting out of China. Well, it's an inventory game. So by the time or people are selling that have inventory in stock, they can keep their prices down. But over time, that inventory is going to run out. Everybody's on a level playing field. I mean, if you want to stick to your margins and, sell at a lower price, that's fine. You lose. Everybody's going to be moving up. So it's somewhere it's got to be absorbed. And at the end of the day, for the most part, the consumer is going to have to pay for it. We've got to move it up. Now, cell phone cases might be slightly different because in a $20,000 container, you can put a heck of a lot of cell phone cases.
Yep. No, no, but you're right. There's just upward pressure. There's basically inflationary pressure because, anyone who's on Amazon for a long time, no one's on there to break even, right? No one's selling a product. So people are profitable, and that's baked in the costs. And so that's where it ends up being in the short term. You want to operate more efficiently than your competition so that you can better withstand or drive more profits through that. But so yeah, it's definitely a challenge. Of course, the upside has been this, through the pandemic, initially the sales, the volume of people that came into e-commerce, right, was a huge lift, right? So then it's more about, we had a lot of top line growth, but we had to manage, how do you make sure you get the bottom line as efficient. The other thing I would say too is, even though of course we prefer lower prices, but any of these challenges, they kind of make you a better operation anyways, because like, for example, having to turn your inventory faster in Amazon is something that you've had to do because Amazon's required you with inventory limits, right? But it's also really good for your business in terms of, turning that cash, the return on your investment. So some of these things, whether they're painful, it's kind of like it's a good pain because as you build these, as you get better at it, it's going to be better for your operation, if you're going to stay in the space.
Right.
Okay, so we have time for just a few more questions as we're wrapping things up. But from Simon, what percentage of Jamie's business is Amazon? If mostly Amazon, do you feel having all your eggs in the Bezos basket is a high risk?
Good question. Yeah, so it's a good question all around, and it probably changes over time. We're at about 80% of our business is in Amazon. Traditionally, it's been even higher than that. So we've always been, super aggressive when it comes to Amazon itself, in terms of like we we're talking about earlier. Hey, do we send stuff to our website? It's a little higher margin, or do we send it to Amazon? We always send it to Amazon because we're so huge on that keyword ranking we were talking about earlier that we know like we want to drive the volume that we get through Amazon. That being said, we do sell on like 30 other platforms. We've got a small team that manages that like day to day. I don't even look at it as well, but it's over time. I think you want to you can call it diversify over time, but I think it's a little bit of a balance. I think at the end of the day, Amazon is a distribution channel, right? It's a product distribution channel that's super powerful, but it's that our business is not an Amazon business. Our business is a brand of each of our products. We use Amazon as our distribution channel, but we want to build, as Norm was referring to, you definitely want to build assets off of Amazon. So even if we're going to focus heavy on Amazon, we definitely want to have ways to collect emails or cell phone numbers, or have them tied into us in certain Facebook groups, whatever it is. So we want off Amazon assets. We still believe Amazon's going to be, has a long ways to go. So we're definitely heavily focused on there, but we sell on Walmart. We sell again, with all the other providers we sell, but our big focus is Amazon. I think if I was, a newer seller, I would still focus on Amazon mostly, but understand, how to build those assets and if you need to take advantage of those other opportunities, do so. Just make sure that you're capable of executing multiple platforms. Otherwise, you may not have any business if you can't execute on one platform.
Right.
Okay, and we have a big question here, so I'm going to read it because it'll cover the whole screen. But
is that the novel that I saw? Somebody posted
so
a novel.
I'll break it down. So let me see. It's a Me Too product, and it's one of the products that there's no differentiation possible in terms of design or anything. He has the option of doing the cardboard packaging instead of shrink poly wrap. But the issue is if he adds a cardboard with the logos, it would increase his product dimensional weight, increasing his shipping costs, and he'd have to increase his price. So he's not sure if he should do it or not. And this is from Mohammed.
Here, I can kick off my initial. So some of those things that, of course, I don't really love that position in the first place. We would err on the side of actually not spending more money in terms of putting the logo on the box and everything else. That is technically a way of differentiating, and it can depend on the product. Like if you have, let's say a really cheap piece of jewelry, I love you to the moon and back, and it costs you virtually nothing, and you invest a little bit in the packaging so that, you can sell it for $20 and it gives it a really nice feel, a nice gift, then you're creating some value through that packaging. In our case, like using cell phone cases, or let's say I have a backpack, a lot of the stuff, we don't see a lot of value in that. So it's one of the reasons why we actually got out of some of the physical retail stores when we used to sell, is because we didn't want to deal with the packaging requirements and the hanging, because we want to be as efficient as possible in that scenario. But I don't love, a Me Too product trying to differentiate just based on packaging in the first place. I think that's just a tough spot to be. It's a little bit of a race to the bottom. And especially, like you said, you're going to add some additional costs with packaging. In that case, I'd rather try to outmarket and try to have a cost advantage and try to outmarket than add more costs, thinking that's going to help differentiate. So that's my 2 cents.
I mean, if you take a look at, let's say it's a plastic shoe stretcher. I mean, a plastic shoe stretcher, red or black. I use this example quite a bit. If it's cheap plastic and the spring doesn't, support the shoe and it breaks all the time, and you see that 7 people are already selling it, so it's a Me Too product, the highest rating's 3.5 stars, why get into it? I mean, the Me Too product's got to be pretty darn good. And have you talked to the manufacturer? Like, let's say it's red and black, shoe stretchers. Can you make it green, or, try to find a different color? Can you change the spring somehow? But like talking with your manufacturer, they should be able to give you some idea how to stand out. If it's a low dollar item too, and putting that 25 cents worth of packaging or 50 cents worth of packaging is going to kill the margins. It's tough to do. And I'm not a Me Too product guy. Afalabi was on. So Afalabi's my partner in Honu, and he's just 100% against Me Too products. If you want to differentiate yourself on Amazon right now, why go to a plastic shoe stretcher, which 7 other people are selling? How do you differentiate that? It's very hard to do. So, my answer, actually long-winded answer, is sometimes the packaging, if it's just the same product and you're going to have the same pictures as everybody else, I agree with Jamie. It's going to have to be all about your marketing and how you get out there and, present yourself. It's a tough one, Mohammed.
That's great. The only one I'd add too is, you have to have, if it's a Me Too product, you still need a unique competitive advantage. So for example, if you have a community, right, with that supports that product, you have a community other people don't, or you're tied into someone's Facebook group, and then you have an advantage that even though maybe it's a Me Too product, but there's an affinity to your community or group that helps that, or you've built, then I think you can, ties into out market. But without that, then it's going to be difficult long-term.
Agree. That's actually a great point. That's one way to differentiate a Me Too product. Get into a group, answer questions, be active, get engaged.
Okay, so we're just over the hour mark, so I think it's time to head over to the wheel, if that's okay with you guys.
Okay.
All right, so thank you
Jamie,
again.
stand back. You've never seen this.
Uh, and before we do, I just want to say thank you for all the questions that you guys have sent in. If we didn't get to any, just please, you can post them over into our Facebook group, Lunch with Norm, Amazon, FBA, and eCommerce Collective, and someone from our community will help you out there. But yes, here we go, the Wheel of Kelsey. 3, 2, 1.
It's time for the Wheel of Kelsey.
All right.
All right, that is our Wheel of Kelsey. And here we go. This is for the consultation with Jamie. I'm going to go shuffle these names up. And here we go. 3, 2, 1. If you are the winner of today's Wheel of Kelsey, please email me at k@lunchwithnorm.com. Looks like we have a new winner today.
Who's that?
Devesh.
Oh, okay. Very good. Congrats.
All right, congratulations, Devesh. So please email me, k@lunchwithnorm.com. And then we have one more giveaway that we'll do quickly with our Stable Copper. Here we go. All right, so I'm just going to shuffle these ones up. 3, 2, 1. All right, the winner is Jessica Rabbit.
Okay, Roslyn.
All right, Rosalind, so I have all your contact information, so that one will be easy. But congratulations, everyone, and thanks for entering our Wheel of Kelsey draw.
Okay, Jamie. Well, thank you for coming by. I hope that you'll accept the invitation for the next episode.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun, man.
You know, I should mention that you're all over Clubhouse. So if people are on Clubhouse, which most of us listening are, make sure that you check out Jamie, follow him, ring that bell so you can get notifications. He drops a ton of knowledge. He's got some great guests. And anyways, Jamie, how do people contact you or the company?
Yeah, I'll make it really easy. I tried this one other time. It worked pretty well. I'll share my cell number to my actual phone, not to not to a list.
Okay, there you go.
Again, most people don't take action, but my number is best way is via text, 404-275-8643. So that is my number. If you will text me, want info, I can help them with things or connecting with my team. Obviously we're on Facebook, Instagram, any kind of direct messaging is always good. You mentioned Clubhouse, but yeah, I figured I would try out directly to my phone if people want to reach out.
That's dangerous. Okay, well, you know what? I wonder when the first call is going to come in. All right. Jamie, thanks a lot for coming on the show. It was fantastic. Thank you for the information, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Nora. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. Okay, Kelsey, let's see. What do we got going? Oh, we've got to say thank you to our sponsor, Ahrefs. So Ahrefs is a new sponsor, came on this month, and they have a fantastic tool. But anyways, from the Lunch with Norm podcast, that e-commerce website is critical for the rise of any micro brand in 2021. We just talked about that today. But how do Amazon sellers like us find out how to optimize your website? Like we were just talking about the Shopify site. How do you get traffic there? If you've got no idea how to get traffic there, or if your pages are indexed, or what's going on, it's not going to help out. It's like having an Amazon listing with no listing. So anyways, Ahrefs got a free tool out there. And if you want it, it's absolutely free. I downloaded it the other day. I tried it on Lunch with Norm, and there was a bunch of issues with indexing and duplicate titles and stuff like that. Check out ahrefs.com/AWT. That's ahrefs.com/AWT, and check it out. It's free, and you'll get, I think, I don't know. I got a huge report that came back. Anyways, it was very useful. So check that out. Now, Kelsey, where are you?
All right. So thank you, everyone who showed up today. We have a lot of new listeners too, which is always great to see. And yeah, if you're interested in joining our community, head on over to our Facebook group. That's Lunch with Norm, Amazon FBA, and eCommerce Collective. And yeah, ask your questions. If you have any advice for any new sellers, just feel free to put that over there. And let me see. Also, we have something interesting coming up in September. It's going to be our 200th episode. So we're going to be doing a little contest and see if we could have some Beard Nation members on the show, just like we did for, I think it was like our 75th episode or something like that. But it was really fun. We got to meet Mark, Marsha, Simon, and a whole bunch of other Beard Nation members as well. So stay tuned for that, and that's all going to be happening in our Facebook group. So yeah, head over there. Also, if you're interested in more of the Beard, if you want some guest lessons, free SOPs, if you want to hang out with me and Norm and ask your questions, we actually have our Patreon Q&A for the Platinum members tomorrow. So we're going to be answering questions about Amazon, e-commerce, social media, all happening tomorrow. So yeah, check that out. That's our Lunch with Norm website, and you can click on the membership tab for all that information.
Yeah, you can buy Kelsey a coffee. All right.
Buy me a coffee too.
Okay, so join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you for everybody, all these new people that came in and joined us today. That's fantastic. We've got an incredible group of an engaged community. So join us. And for the community that's always listening, thank you so much. We love it. Keep on tuning in. And as long as you're tuning in, we'll provide the content. So enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Lunch with